All right, all right. I hope everybody is well and doing good. I am excited about life and God is on the throne. Let's open in a word of prayer and we're going to get started. Father, we thank you for this time. Pray that you bless our students, give them courage, wisdom, peace, strength, tenacity. Uh, we thank you for your love, Lord. Thank you for your grace, your mercy. Bless this time in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, we're going to do chapters 11 through 13, and I don't know how much I have said this or explained this, but I want you to understand part of my pedagogy, fancy word for philosophy of teaching, for those of you who might not know the word, is that I believe in you. I believe in you as adults. I do not read things to you. How many of you have ever been in a class where the professor starts reading to you from the textbooks? I've had that happen in my PhD. I about died. You are not children. So when I do a PowerPoint, my object is not to teach you every detail of the book. My expectation is that you're going to read the book and you're going to highlight or note or underline what's important and be able to quick reference that, and you've got it. That is adult learning. And that and I hope y'all do this. I do it all the time. I'll be reading something and there'll be a theory or a concept or a word that I'm like, I have no idea. And I'll just Google, boom, 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 and bam. I mean, in 1 minute, I'm like, ooh, I got it. Now I know a little bit about that. So I encourage you to do those kinds of things. Google and I are getting a PhD. So Google is my friend. Hopefully you guys have figured that out. All right. So I am going to very much kind of brief overview. My last video did not show my face, and I want to show my face. I want you to see my beautiful face. I hope some of y'all can laugh. I know, like, who is this weird guy? I think I've got that fixed, and I think you should be able to see me on this. I won't know until I'm done and relook at it. I mean, I could do a test and go back. I just did a test and it worked perfect. So who knows? I hope it's working. All right. So broad concepts, things that I want you to catch, things that I want you to think about. Is really what I'm about during our lecture times. So just keep that in mind in case you're wondering, like, wow, he skipped over that whole chunk of section. Like, yeah. And in fact, in several of these chapters, really what we're looking at is, I'll just go ahead and move to my first slide. We're looking at identity, right? So racial identity, cultural identity, depending on who you read. Identity development. Now, I hope you've heard of this conceptually at some point. Some of you may not have even ever heard of this, and that's not a put down or a problem or whatever. It wasn't. I'm trying to think back to my master's degree in 91, 92, which when I graduated in 92. Did we talk about identity development, cultural identity development? I don't know. Part of what the textbook does and highlights and brings out is the differences of identity, cultural and racial identity development for different cultures and different races. And the textbook goes through multiple races and different theories. I'm going to go through some of the basic concepts of identity development. Talk about some of I may get into, not to get political, but politics about it. What I mean by that is, well, never mind. I'll get there when I get there. I chose this picture on looking at racial and cultural identity because it is the concept of someone feeling left out, and we've all felt this, right? There is an innate yearning that is built within every one of us. And if it does not exist in you, then you are severely broken or you're not aware. There's a self-awareness issue. When I say severely broken, if some of you feel like, oh no, I am, well, okay, good. Acknowledge it and get healing. Work on it, right? I mean, that's not a death sentence. That is if I'm broken, and I have been messed up big time in my life at times and had to stop and acknowledge it. Hey, I got some work to do. I still have work to do. We all have work to do. We're all a mess in a lot of ways. And if you don't think you are, I chuckle and God chuckles, and you will hit a crisis one day and go, oh my, I had no idea. Yeah, there's so much more to you than you know. So much more to you than you know. I hope you can hear that. Pastor Robert last Sunday said, Robert Morris said, there's three kinds of people. There is a wise person who, when corrected or admonished, and some of you just got corrected or admonished, so to speak, challenged, hears and receives and changes and learns and grows, right, and loves you. A fool will mock you, reject you, twist it, throw it back on you, right? You ever guilty of that? Someone tries to call you on something and it's their problem, it's their fault, and you put it back on them. Or you've seen someone do that. And then there's just the pure evil person. And wow, right? I mean, what do you just, if they work for you, you fire them. I mean, if they're in your immediate circle, you confront them. There's no change. There's no willingness. There's then no, never mind. The fool can oftentimes be their attention can be gotten with consequences. Okay, so I say that to say I hope that you can, when you hear stuff from me that rubs your hair the wrong way, that makes you bristle, that you're like, oh, not me, I don't know about that, especially if it upsets you at the same time. That's a pretty good sign there's something there that needs to be looked at. I have this fun thing that I do. There's two scales, right? And these scales move up and down, okay? And so here's how this scale works. When my wife calls me on my junk, so let's say this is my wife calling me on my junk, right? So she calls me on my junk, and this is the how angry I get scale, right? And it's also the how angry I get scale and the how right she is scale. The angrier I get, the higher this goes, the more right she is. Doesn't that make you mad? Oh, that's just painful, right? So if I'm getting really mad, she's probably right on, hit the nail on the head. So if I upset you, if you were to call me and say, "That made me so mad," I'd probably be over here grinning, going, "Okay, good, let's talk about it. What did I poke? What did I hit? What issues? There's no issue. Okay, well, good. Why don't you sleep on it and talk to me later when you figure it out, because there is an issue." Okay, so this is the kind of class that has the potential to stir stuff up in you. Is the reason I don't want y'all to think, well, boy, he just went off on some tangent that has nothing to do with this class and nothing to do with anything. No, I didn't. That was very intentional and very purposeful and very planned to talk about those things. When it comes to our racial and cultural identity, there is a lot of internal angst for most of us. I want you to do two things as we talk about this. One is I want you to try to identify where you feel like you are, and I want you to learn to identify where people around you are. When it comes to, and I'm going to do some general things before we get right into it, just a couple of little points, and then we'll talk about, why did I choose this one? I don't know. I choose the Black Identity Development Model, one of them in the textbook, to talk about. And I think that what you'll find is many of the developmental stage models are similar. Some of them have 5 stages, some of them have 7 stages, right? But conceptually, there are some very similar things. And if there's absolutely no awareness, right, none whatsoever of self-awareness, how do I feel about being Black? How do I feel about being Asian? How do I feel about being Latino, Hispanic, white, Japanese, whatever, right? How do I feel about those things? If there's absolutely no thought about that ever at all, then you have no idea where you're at on the developmental stage, and probably then therefore also are at a very low early stages, low level, if you will. Well, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. It's just, okay, that's where I'm at. And the younger you are, the more likely That is to be the case. All right. Um, the people say really, really strange things, just really strange things, right? I've had black clients, and I had a black client tell me, female, sweetheart, loved her to death. One of my favorite clients I have ever had in my life. I swear to you. I mean, just we worked together, we clicked. It was a God thing. It was beautiful. It was amazing, right? Just fun. Worked hard. Just wow. It was awesome, right? So she was a sweetheart. She said that and it was an older person, it was an old lady, an old white lady. Again, we have to, oh, why do you keep talking about race and saying white and black and African American and Mexican and Hispanic? And why do you keep saying that? Because that's what we're talking about. That's the whole, you read the textbook, boy, it is not hold any punches at all. So this older white lady says to this black lady who's like in her 30s, says to her, so do you ever go back to Africa to see your family? Like, are you from Africa, right? And she was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I have not been to Africa. I was born in Texas. No, it's just wow. It's like, so people say really odd things and really strange things, and it at some level it reveals their ignorance. Sometimes it reveals their fear. Um, and sometimes it's hurtful and sometimes it's painful. Other times it's laughable. You just kind of shake your head and go, wow, poor thing. Okay, whatever, and move on, right? So that's just a concept that I want us to be aware of, because I don't want you to be that person that says strange things to people, right? So just be, sometimes it's just better to, if you're not sure what to say, don't say much, right? Or don't say nothing at all. Thumper's mama on Bambi. If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all, right? So just don't say anything. Just sometimes it's just silence is beautiful. The textbook touches on, and some of you are third generation immigrants, and some of you have friends that are, and or have worked with people. I told you that I did my immersion project for my doctorate level counseling diverse populations class. I mean, I don't know that that was the exact name of the class, but you follow me. And I went to a Sunday school Bible study type meeting, and this guy was talking, and he was like in his 30s, married, and beautiful people, beautiful family, and he was talking about his own personal identity crisis and struggle. He's like, I look at my parents and my grandparents, and they are Indian. I mean, they are from India. They were born in India. They are Indian. And then there's different versions of this. There's my grandparents were born in India. My parents were born in America. I was born in America. And then there's my grandparents were born in India. My parents were born in India, and I was born in America. And that's generally that one. The latter of those two is generally what we talk about when we say third generation immigrants. So, and by definition, that would be, but there are those different scenarios. So, he said, I'm not, I certainly, I have a lot of cultural connectedness with the people of India, and I have the customs. I understand the way we do things. I get that, right? But, but he said, I am very American, culturally, almost to the point of being like individualistic American. It's very, very different. So there's this kind of tornness. And he talked about Moses. You think about Moses. Moses was born Jewish, was with his with his family of origin, his father and his mother and his siblings, till he was probably somewhere between 4 and 6. This was until he was weaned, and that would have been in that day and age, approximately age 4 to 6. So, stop and think about that for a minute. That's kind of like, wow, really? Yeah, yes, really. So you remember things when you were 5 years old. Most people do. Many people do. And so, there was that, right? There was that portion of Moses, and then he was raised as an Egyptian in the palace as a prince of Pharaoh. And then he left that and went back. And then he ended up in the Midian in Midian with the priests there, and that was a whole nother different culture, probably more similar to his original culture. And then he went back to the Jewish people and led them out into the promised land. And so, poor guy, talking about identity, like who in the world am I? And so, and yet Moses was considered a friend of God, which brings me to the point of really ultimately, if the better and the deeper we can lay hold of the concept of who we are and what we're about in terms of we are children of God, we are temporary citizens of this. We're not citizens of this world. We're temporary. We're passer-byers, passer-throughers. We're just passing through, right? We are not citizens of this world. We are citizens of heaven. We are citizens of the kingdom of God. Boy, that's, I'm fixing to start preaching. Watch out. That is our identity. Yes, our culture impacts what we eat and how we give eye contact or don't give eye contact or how we greet one another or what there's all kinds of, yes, it affects us, and that's okay, right? There's plenty of room for Christianity within all of that. So those are just some kind of underlying things that I want you guys to think about as we go through this. Okay. Let's see. Black identity development model. So there is this pre-encounter stage where a person begins to devalue their own blackness and value white values. And again, this is straight out of the textbook. Some of y'all are like, oh, I don't know about this. Well, okay, whatever. And I'm not black. I don't know, in case you hadn't noticed. I assume that this is common. And my understanding, according to Sue and Sue, who are Asian, this is common. But you can talk to people and find this kind of stuff out. This is a lot of research. This is not just something that somebody's thought of one day off the top of their head. Then there's the encounter stage. So there is an internal crisis, which I believe is usually a good thing, but also can be very painful. And we can come out on the wrong side of a crisis. We can come out upside down on our head on the other side of a crisis, as opposed to with more clarity and with God at the center of our lives. And that's up to us, right? So there's this crisis. The way we think, the way the African American person thinks, the way they behave. There is this challenge. The thoughts and customs and beliefs are challenged, and then oftentimes a person's worldview is changed, at least to some degree, as a result of that. Let me also say, in general, that there seems to be this worldwide thing that the darker skin a person is the worse it is for them. Even within the African American community, oftentimes the darker African Americans, the blacker the skin, they're looked down upon by a lighter skinned African American, which is really, really interesting to me. I told y'all earlier about the black lady that I worked with that I just loved to death, and we had a great relationship and as a client and a Christian, and she was prejudiced against her race. I mean, and mainly she had a lot of her family was crack house level, just thug, trashy, bad deal, right? And so it was really more about that. The lifestyle of drug, sex, alcohol, no morality, no responsibility. The men in her life she didn't know any responsible males in her family at all. Make babies and run off and do drugs and die. I mean, it was just bad. And so she's like, I am prejudiced against my own race. I cannot stand black people. And I'm looking at her going, okay, wow. And so that's that's that kind of thing that you see sometimes. Okay, immersion. This is a withdrawal from the, I'm starting to read to you. So sorry. I can't do that, right? That's against the rules. So when we talk about dominant culture, we're talking about, in America, we're talking about white primarily. And again, that may sound harsh or weird or whatever, but that's what we're talking about. So they would move away from the white culture and delve into their African American culture in terms of participating in it and being a part of it. And then there's this internalization stage, where there is a kind of this is kind of a better place, if you will, right? So there's this kind of bringing together of the old and the new, a molding together of the identities to become more at peace, I guess you would say. And then internalization, commitment. Oftentimes, people will get very involved in civil rights, African Americans, social justice, social change, those kinds of things. We'll talk more about those things in class. Social justice is a buzzword in my mind. That is a very politically ruined term, if you will. Yeah. So anyway, whatever. We can talk more about that at another time. Ooh, let me move my little head, my little mug. All right. White racial identity development. So when it comes to being white and what it means to be white, and by the way, some of you who are Latino, Latina, Hispanic may identify. You may be very light skinned, and you may identify as white. Largely, obviously, when you're checking a box, you got government forms and you're filling out paperwork, and it says Latina or Latino. You check that. Yes, okay, I got you. But you may identify more as white. So these are it's interesting. That first bullet, you're like, okay, so what? Well, so I want you to think about it. What does that mean? You go into a Chinese food restaurant. There's in the FBI, for example, they literally have division. They're like, all right, we got to go round up a bunch of Asian sex offenders. As we're low on literally, they try to keep it perfectly equal between all of the major races as to who they've arrested, literally. And I've had an FBI agent tell me that personally. So there's this political correctness. There's this political thing that says you have to have the same amount of the division, right? A lot of the large companies and companies that are heavy with government contracts, they are required to have the percentages between black and white and Hispanic, and they would probably put Hispanic and Latino all in one category, Mexican, Hispanic and Latino, blacks, whites, and Asians. They are required to have an equal amount of so it's not about who's qualified for the job or who. It's about we have to keep these numbers right. And yet we go to a Chinese food restaurant and they're all Chinese and we think that's just cool as all get out and like, oh, check it out. And they're like, oh, hello. And you're like, yeah, this is awesome. And it is, and I'm fine with that. But isn't it interesting? Isn't it kind of a, is that not maybe a tad bit hypocritical? And part of, I'm a big, I hate political correctness. I believe political correctness is damaging to our society. And so that's part of my fight is against political correctness. Let that just soak in for a minute. And I don't know. Most of you probably are on board with that. Some of you may just be flipping out right now, which God love you and I love you. And we can coexist together in the same amount of space, especially online, right? Again, if I offend you, be big boy, be big girl about it. Call me, talk to me. We'll work it out. All right. So let's see. There is an experiment that I would really love for you to look up. It's brown-eyed and blue-eyed grade school experiment. And if you just Google that, you probably would get it, or go into YouTube and Google that. There's some videos on that. It's amazing. So this teacher literally came to class. This was right after the Martin Luther King was killed. And she's like, we got to deal with this. We're going to talk about this. It was an all-white school in an all-white area in America, middle America. I forget where it was. And so she came into class and she said, okay, guys, here's the deal. They talked about Martin Luther King, about his death and the racism a little bit. And then they said, here's the deal. She said, all of the kids with brown eyes are smarter than the kids with the blue eyes. They're sharper, they're better looking, they're nicer, they're more polite, they're really respectful in class. They always raise their hand. They always bring their pencils to school. They bring all their books. They're just amazing. And but the blue-eyed people, they're kind of stupid and kind of not really with it, and they mess up a lot, and the kids are just like, oh, really? So she does this for 3 days, I think it is. She does this for a little chunk of time, and it's amazing. The brown-eyed kids start treating the blue-eyed kids badly. Um, oh, you're ugly. You gotta go. You can't play with us. And I mean, it's crazy, right? So she carries through with this for a little while. Doesn't get in trouble, by the way, today. I don't think this would work. Um, then she comes back and says, "You know what? I've been lying to you. I'm so sorry, but I've just lied to you straight up for 3 days. I've lied to you." She said, "Really? What it is the blue-eyed people are smarter than the brown-eyed people. They're sharper, they're smarter, they bring their stuff to school, they're sweeter, they're more respectful to authority." And so she's began, and sure enough, the entire class switched and the blue-eyed people started treating the brown-eyed people. This they did a follow-up. In fact, they had a reunion when these people were in their like 20s, I think, and they said it's changed our life. It's changed our attitude, our view. How absolutely insane. Think about this for a second, guys. Absolutely insane is it to look at a person and based on their color of skin to make the judgment that one is better than the other simply because of the color of their skin. How absolutely insane is that? It just makes me crazy. But it happens, and it's worldwide, and it's been going on forever. It's just the beginning of time. It's just crazy. Um, what is your attitude about whiteness? What is your attitude about other colors, regardless of what color you are? Right? What's your attitude about it? What do terms like white privilege or white power mean to you? Microaggressions are the concept of I may have already shared this story with you, and so forgive me if I have, but there was I think this was when my professor told me this story. He would have been just like me, right? Middle-aged, upper middle-aged, white guy, right? Middle class, middle-aged white guy. He walked into a Joann's fabric store of some kind, and there was these three Hispanic ladies there looking at cloth, probably regular customers, certainly would be potentially regular customers. He needed like a funky kind of string for some project he was doing in the garage or something, something he was building for his wife or something like that, right? So this is I mean, I'm trying to think when's the last time I've been to a Joann's Fabric. I went with my wife once or twice in our 30 years of marriage, 2 or 3 times, 5 times. I don't, not very many, right? So have I ever gone in alone to buy something? Oh man, I mean, maybe, but I don't know, right? So my point is I'm not your customer. I'm not your average, normal, everyday customer, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a reality, and that's a fact. These other ladies are probably more likely to be the customer, and you could stop there and say, oh, that's racist of you. And that's just, to me, that's just a reality. That I'm sorry, but it's just a reality. So um, the the worker at the store, like, these ladies were obviously wanting help and needing help. The worker at the store snubbed these ladies and went to him and said, "Hi, welcome. How are you doing? Can I help? How can I help you?" And he was like, "Really? You jerk. You're going to come talk to me, and these ladies are here first and need your help? Like, what the heck?" And the question is, did he do that? Did he take up for him? Did he say so? I don't remember. I don't remember that part of the story. But that is a perfect example of a microaggression. How self-aware are we? How self-aware are you? Um, Self-awareness is the key to being multiculturally competent. When we talk about multicultural competence, it's kind of like um, well, it's not possible in essence. You cannot be perfectly multiculturally competent, but your road to multicultural competence is your awareness of yourself. Um, White privilege and white power. There is a political attitude, like I'm supposed to feel bad because I have white privilege, because I have white power, because I have been, every door. Think about the thing. Professor Fairchild, do I hear facetiousness in your voice? Yeah. Every door has been thrown wide open for me, and I have been handed silver platters everywhere I go, and I've never had to work hard for anything in my life because I'm white. That's obviously it's a little extreme, and maybe that's not what people mean, but there is this. I don't know what it is. Anger, jealousness. I'm supposed to feel guilty or bad because I'm white. Well, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm white. I was born that way. I didn't choose it. I am. I get it that there's a lot I don't understand. I have black friends. I've had black friends tell me, yeah, I walk out of the store and they come chase me down and think I stole something because I'm black, and that at least probably because I'm black, or they pull me over. I have a white friend who was with a black guy driving down the road, and this white friend of mine was a sheriff, and the cop pulled him over for like nothing. It was stupid. It was one of those situations where you're like, really? And the guy looked in the cop looks in and he looks across the black guy and sees the white guy, my friend Bruce, sitting in the seat, and knew him. And Bruce is looking at him like, dude, really? Seriously? Come on. And the guy was like, oh, and just kind of whatever. And he bowed out and backed off. And that was the end of that. But like, dude, yeah, and I get that happens. And I hate that. It's unfortunate. That doesn't make me good because I hate that. That doesn't score me any points anywhere because I hate that. That is an internal, personal thing. I really wish that people did not treat people like that. Well, what about you, Professor Fairchild? Well, have I ever done microaggressions? Probably. Do I have any prejudices or any biases towards any race? Yes. Do you? Yes. If you don't think you do, you are not self-aware enough yet. You will get there. It is okay to be able to look in the mirror and look at yourself and look at your heart and say, yes, I have prejudices. Yes, I have people and it is a lot of times for me it doesn't matter the color, right? It's like the way they believe, the way they function, the way they communicate, and I'm just like, ugh, like I just don't like it, right? And now I check myself, I'm aware, and I say to myself, okay, Brad, you don't like this person, you don't like the way they communicate, treat them with respect, regardless, right? So that's the value of self-awareness. It's not as opposed to, oh no, nobody bothers me, and then someone bothers you and you just treat them badly, and don't even know what's happening. Do you see the difference? You see what I'm saying? I hope y'all can see that. All right, next one. I'm gonna start preaching again. Um, when it comes to assessing people, one of the things that we see frequently is non-dominant in the world of psychology, counseling, and psychology. The non-dominant cultures get more severe and more frequently get a severe and really oftentimes misdiagnosed uh, diagnosis, right? So, it could be adjustment disorder with depressive tendencies, which is kind of a mild adjustment disorders are kind of mild, or it could be major depression. Okay, so a white person with those issues comes in, adjustment disorder, yeah, he's fine, it's just a little thing. Black person comes in with that, oh man, this person's depressed, they are messed up, major depression, bam, stamp them with major depression. There is statistically, and I mean, there's been studies on this. This is a fact, right? This happens. Uh, why is that important for you to be aware of? So that you're not making them to seem worse than they really are just because they're culturally different from you, just because, and maybe you don't understand them completely, right? That may be part of that. So you're asking yourself. Uh, I have a friend who, this second bullet here, I have a friend who so he and I, best friends for 37 years. How crazy is that? That's older than some of you, longer than some of you are old. Um, and I'll say to Todd, I don't know if it's I just don't like this person. I don't know if it's just a personality clash, or if there's something like that, there's something wrong there, right? Is there's an unhealthiness, or is it spiritually, is my spirit picking up something? Sometimes I don't know. Oh, you need more discernment. You dang right I do. I'd love a lot more discernment. Would love a lot more faith too. Uh, so, but here's my point. My point is, are you stopping and asking? Right? Are you asking, is this just a bias of mine? Is this just me? Or is there really something here that's not right? Right? And again, when it comes to culturally things that are very different from you, it's going to be really hard for you to not look at something and go, man, that's just not right. Well, it's culturally perfectly right and normal for them. It's not sinful. It's not unhealthy. It's just the way their culture functions, and it's okay, right? So it's normal. So you're not diagnosing worse because of something that's just different. And again, we're right back at self-awareness. It is important that we are painfully, we got to be brutally honest with ourselves. Yes, we can have specific knowledge about different cultures, and those are generalities, right? So African American families tend to use corporal punishment more severely and more frequently than white families. True statement. Yes, right. So there's corporal punishment, spankings, right? So or slapping, slap you across the face. Boy, ask a 50-year-old black man, your mama ever slap you across the face? He'll probably laugh and go, "Oh, my mama could have slapped a mess out of me. Yeah, she'd just fall off and slap me and say, boy, cut that out." Like, yeah, okay. And did it work? Yeah, it worked. Okay. So even stuff like that, some things that one culture would look at and go, that's abuse. Another culture would say, that's just normal, right? But hear me now. Here's my whole point in all of that is not to get into that, but my point in all of that is we have knowledge, general knowledge about a culture, but you cannot put everybody in that category, because you may be sitting in front of an African American person and ask them, so what did you get spankings for your group? No, I never got a spanking in my life. My mom and dad always put me in timeout and then just sat me down and talked with me. Okay, cool, right? Don't flip out. Don't. Oh, but that doesn't fit the narrative, Well, no, that's just. I mean, dude, people are individuals, right? So be aware of that. Okay. You are going to have need to be aware of how you intervene when you intervene with people, and how that specific interventions work for some cultures and don't work for another. I'll give you one example. If I have a person who is Asian culture, who is my family doesn't believe in talking about their problems outside of the family. Very honor your parents, and honor and family honor and lose face. All of those kinds of things are huge, right? And you want to give them your intervention is that you're going to have them uh, talk about or write down all of the ways that they feel like their parents have failed or have harmed them. Dude, that ain't happening. I'm sorry. That's just like culturally, are you out of your mind asking that of somebody? No. Can't be. No, we can't do that. Right. So understand. Well, yeah, but I need that information. They need to look at that. They need to grab that. That is your cultural bias. Yeah, I would tend to go there too with you, but you don't have. That's not a tool. Sorry, you're gonna have to do without that tool. Well, I just that's one tool in my toolbox I need, and blah blah blah. Well, fix it without it. I'm just sorry, you're just gonna have to work around it. There are times it can be very challenging. So you also want a very thorough assessment of their culture and of their family and of their family history in your assessment process. So in my mind, there's assessment or just basic assessment, right? But when you're talking about other cultures, you want to put a little more emphasis on and culture. All right, so that was chapters 11, 12, and 13. Literally, I know you're like, wow, you had like one on each. Yep, I sure did. So that doesn't mean everything else is not important. Remember, a lot of that was just model after model. And there's a lot of meat there I want you to digest, but these are the concepts that I want you to be thinking about as you read the material. And I enjoyed today. I hope that I caused you to think. I hope I upset you at least a little bit. And I hope you're able to work through that and be okay and be at peace. And if not, or if you're struggling with that, then I hope you will come and talk to me. All right, guys. God bless. Thank y'all. I will see you next time.